Hey everybody, welcome to Liberty and EDC. I'm your host, Daniel Sellers Norman, and we're here with JR Hichborn, who's running for Cameron Park CSD. JR, thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. So just to get started, I'm going to ask you a fun question.
Okay.
So in 3 words, or what 3 words would you use to describe the future of Cameron Park?
Putting families first. Just like the sign.
Oh. and why do you say that?
I think we got a lot of amenities, and as long as we invest in the community, we can make it so that the families have somewhere to go and recreate and safe spaces, and I think that's really important.
Yeah. And then you were just telling me a fun fact, too, about the Cameron Park sign.
Yeah, I actually built that Cameron Park sign. We're part of a team of guys that built that sign a long time ago. It was a fun project. I did it while I was in college, and it was part of my landscape construction course.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And that's the one, like, right at when you get off the freeway, you can see there?
Yes. Yep. Right there on, we call it Charty Corner. Yeah.
How long ago was that?
That had to be probably 15-ish years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I feel like the sign's just always been there. So I guess it's only been there 15 years, so.
15 to 20 years, yeah.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about your background. Why did you decide to run for office?
So initially, I worked for the Cameron Park CSD for 18 years.
Okay.
Started off as a scorekeeper in adult softball games, worked my way to roughing kids basketball, and then ended up in the parks department digging ditches. And eventually, I was in charge of the parks department as the park superintendent. Got a really good offer in El Dorado Hills CSD to go be their park superintendent for a little bit more money, and then. Eventually found myself in Sacramento running a park district down there right now called Mission Oaks Recreation Park District.
Okay.
And so what really got my attention was, the Summer Spectacular. I was there for the first one, and it was the biggest event in Cameron Park. It was a huge fireworks show. Started off, it was free, and then it was $5 for a long time, and this last year it was $20. And so I thought that was a little pricey, and that kind of got me involved and got me paying attention to things. So then I started going to meetings and started walking around the parks, and I just noted that we've lost a lot of the things in Cameron Park that made us a special place to live, and thought it would be I need to do my part to try to bring some of that back.
Right on. Now, with bringing some of those things back, like, is there any specifics that you're thinking?
Specifics to me are kind of Cameron Park Lake. We had a lagoon there that as a kid I was able to swim in there, and as my kid was little, she was able to swim in there. Families would come and they'd picnic. There were people on the playground. The place was popping.
I remember going on a school trip there.
Exactly. It was something special. So it made it a special place to live. During COVID, it shut down and it just kind of never reopened. As I understand it, something broke, a pump or something like that, and there wasn't funds to fix it. And I think it's a shame. We've also lost the pool slide over there at the community center. And that was another thing that made us special. So slowly but surely, we keep losing all these things that make Cameron Park a special place to live. And there's a lot of aging infrastructure there that needs to be addressed with. And we need to come up with a plan to maintain the assets we have and then replace the assets as they reach their life expectancy. All the playgrounds are like 22 years old. Those things are only expected to go about 20 years. So what do we do when those things start aging out and breaking down? We can't just get rid of playgrounds and parks. That's not acceptable.
Yeah. Now, before we get into too many more different key or specific stuff like that, tell us, what does a CSD board member do? Like, what's their jobs, responsibilities?
So the CSD board member has one employee, and so that's what makes it tricky. You can't get in the weeds. You can't go get involved with employees and the day-to-day operations. So as a board member, I think that you build a positive relationship with the general manager, who is your one employee there, and you're one of 5. And with that positive relationship, I think you can make some positive changes. A lot can happen with a good, productive conversation, and kind of show my vision and hopefully get on the same page and come to some kind of mutual ground. Because I think it's also important to the general manager that we preserve the assets we have in Cameron Park, and we do things for families to appreciate and the whole community to appreciate.
Yeah, it's probably not easy having 5 bosses.
It can't be easy having 5 bosses. Yeah.
And now, did you say you were you were that general manager for a while?
Or? No. So I was the park superintendent for Cameron Park.
Oh, okay.
And I left in about I think late 2016, early 2017.
So what did you do as the superintendent?
So as a superintendent, I oversaw all of the parks and facilities. So I ran the community center, ran the pools, made sure the grass was good and appropriate, all the irrigation was working. That there wasn't any holes in the roof, and the playgrounds were safe and playable and things like that.
Okay, right on. And then, so is there any other key issues that you're passionate about?
Parks and Recreation are the big ones, and I think that we have some really amazing staff at Cameron Park right now that have a lot of drive, and I think they're trying really hard to kind of bring those services back and keep those facilities looking the way that they know that they should. I think a lot of the tough part that they're up against is they haven't been there very long. I think some of the recreation people have only been there for about 6 months. I know that we're down key staff, so currently the park superintendent is out, and there isn't a recreation superintendent right now, and so getting positive, excited people to fill those roles, and I think that I can bring some institutional knowledge that probably got lost over the years, and I just think it could be very valuable for the CSD. The thing I am most passionate about is that summer spectacular and that lagoon, though. So if we can find a way to somehow revise those two things, that will get me excited. Yeah.
Now the like the lagoon and stuff like that, does that bring in revenue too?
So yes, it did. So it brought in revenue because they use the lagoon as kind of a hub to bring people into Cameron Park Lake. And so what they do is they charge people to get into the lake to swim in the lagoon. They're trying to still charge people to get in the lake with a mechanical arm that's been in the works for a little while. Kind of disagree with that whole premise. I think public parks should be free unless you're paying to use something that's different about that park. I don't think you should be paying to go walk around Cameron Park Lake. But I do understand that they're trying to get creative and think of ways to generate revenue, and I feel like charging to get in the lake while there's not a lagoon there is not the option. And I don't know if it's even possible, but you could do different things. The lagoon still exists. I don't know if you can freeze it in the winter and have an ice skating or something, or if there's a way to bring it back in the summer. Like I'm okay with charging and generating revenue as long as there's something to charge for.
That's cool. And then what other priorities do you think there are for the Cameron Park CSD?
So top priority right now, I think, is the annexation of the fire district. So the Cameron Park CSD is unique in that it has a fire department and it has Parks and Rec, and safety and fire services are always going to be priority number one. And fire services are going to get the priority 10 times out of 10. And as a Park and Rec guy, I get that. I totally get that. So we need to figure out a way to annex either, there's a couple interested parties. I think Cameron Parks is in talks right now with El Dorado Hills Fire. But you need to live within your means in order to maintain a certain lifestyle, and we won't know what those means are until after that separation takes place between the fire district and the rest of the CSD.
Now, is that something that if you get on the board that you're going to be part of, or is that something that's kind of like already set in motion?
So I would definitely be part of it, and there would be a little bit of a learning curve with that, but I'm a quick learner. And it's important. And I've worked with CAL FIRE a lot. So when I was with Cameron Park for 18 years, we worked side by side with CAL FIRE, got to know a lot of the chiefs over the years. And like I said, fire is the most important thing in Cameron Park. And we have to figure that out first before we can go through and fix a lot of the problems that we have right there.
So what do you know, or what do we know like so far, like with that situation? Do you have any opinions on it?
I think that there's 3 phenomenal fire districts out there trying to work with the CSD as far as taking on the fire services. Like I said, El Dorado Hills is one of them. El Dorado County is another one. And I believe Rescue Fire District is the third one. And all 3 are phenomenal districts, and I can't say enough nice things about them. I know that there was a big report done, an annexation study. Don Ashton, I believe, was the name of the guy that put it all together. And I know that it's the priority of the general manager right now, and I know that he's working on it. And I know there's a lot of behind closed doors meetings, so it's hard to get all of the information as just a resident right now. But I do believe that there's a lot of hard work to make that happen currently, and there's still some more hard work to go.
Okay. And then as far as those annexations, like, is there a possibility where you guys don't annex, or?
I think anything's possible, but I think that we have to. I think that we will. Or we're just eventually going to become a fire district, you know what I mean? And it would hurt my soul to see Parks and Recreation leave Cameron Park, because I think that Parks and Recreation give communities an identity, and we've lost our identity, and we got to get it back.
Yeah. So you think if they didn't annex, it would be like, okay, we're just going to have to cut the parks and just focus on...
I don't think right away, but I think slowly but surely you'd see that happen. I know that the last budget they passed was like a negative $570,000 deficit, and I know that's not good for business. You know what I mean? As a government entity, I don't think that you need to go out and make a bunch of money, but you definitely can't lose a bunch of money. And it's just going to be sad to see things disappear one by one, and throwing my hat in the race to try to stop that.
So why do you think they're having such a deficit right now?
I think, obviously inflation has hurt everybody, including government entities. I know in my line of work, I've seen the the minimum wage has gone up and up and up and up, but all of our revenue comes from property tax. And so property tax does not go up at the speed of minimum wage. And what that done is it's made it harder and harder to retain more staff. So you end up cutting staff, and you just end up cut until you get to a point where you just have nothing left because you've cut it all out of the budget.
Yeah, or your lagoon doesn't work anymore.
Or your lagoon doesn't work, and there's no money to fix it or operate with it. And there's things you can do to make the operations cheaper. I think that they were using specifically CO2 to kind of balance the pH in that thing, and that rises up your alkalinity, and then it throws off all the other chemicals. So I think there's ways that they can go about doing it to where they could save a little bit of money on that lagoon.
Okay. Yeah. So what are some other things that you think that they can do to help balance that budget?
I think specifically for Parks and Rec, and nobody wants to pay higher taxes, including myself, and my family's my biggest supporter, and they don't want to pay higher taxes either. So currently Cameron Park, back in, I want to say it was 2004, 2005, they went out for a bond. And so a bond is a one-time payment. You get all the money, and then you end up paying on it for another 20, 25 years. So that bond is going to be expiring soon. And so I would like to see or look into converting that into an assessment. You know what I mean? So nobody's property taxes go up, but they stay the same, and now money will get reinvested into the parks and facility every year. And I think that money needs to have a citizens oversight committee attached to it, so that they can, vote on where the next year's money is being spent, and they can oversee where the previous monies have been spent. And I think that's really important to get active community members involved in something like that, because priorities change. And sometimes employees don't live in the community, and so they don't really know what the community needs. But where I'm at currently right now, we have an assessment, a district-wide assessment, and it's phenomenal. I think it helps us be kind of the standard in the Sacramento Carmichael area for parks and recreation, and it's really dependent on that assessment. So again, I don't want to see property taxes go higher, but if we can convert one tax into a different tax and keep it still the same, I think that's the answer as far as pumping money back into it and saving some of our amenities and facilities that we have in Cameron Park right now.
So what does that mean exactly to convert into a different assessment?
So I don't know how to do it, but I know that there's a consulting company that the district worked with. I believe it's SCI. And so it would be a matter of going through them. It would have to go to the voters. The people would have to vote to make it happen. It would have to be, 50% or more of the people would have to think that it's a good idea. And I hope that they would. I think that we're at a point where a lot of people live in Cameron Park, have lived there for a long time. And so I think people remember what it used to be, and then they can see what it is right now. And there's a clear difference on where we're at. And that's just because we don't have the money to reinvest into the community.
Yeah. So how does that work exactly, though? Like what are we converting and,
So on your property tax statement, if you live in Cameron Park, there's a thing right now that says Cameron Park CSD bond. And so that, as I see it, that would turn into Cameron Park CSD assessment,
Okay.
And that would be dependent on people voted for it.
And then what does that actually change when you convert it?
Oh, so right now all of the money's already been spent. So when they went out for the bond, all that money got spent, and they built a community center with it. But none of that money goes towards the maintenance. So the community center is about 20 years old, and so little by little things are going to start falling apart. Your HVAC system's going to stop working. Your electrical system's going to stop working. That pool's going to start falling apart. So none of that bond money is left over to fix all of those things.
Yeah.
And there's no money in the general fund budget to fix all of those things. So how do you fix everything with no money? And the answer in the past few years has been kind of get rid of it. And I hate to see it all go.
Okay. So that would be kind of like what we were paying on that bond.
Yeah, so exactly what you were paying on the bond, we would continue to pay that, but those monies would go back into the assets.
Renovation and
every single year,
stuff.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
And so it would be cool because then you could actually see where your money goes every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then is there any other issues that you wanted to talk about?
So I think we got to get creative also on how we save some money right now. At the last board meeting, the general manager had mentioned that the staff is down to 50%. So they're at half staff right now. And I think that the staff is focused a lot on landscape services, the park staff. So I think if we can start contracting out, landscape and custodial services, we can take care of the basic needs, and the park maintenance guys can get back to park maintenance. They can get back to fixing roofs. They can get back to making sure the pool is balanced. They can get back to fixing the pool, fixing the facilities, like maintenance staff should do. The parks right now aren't getting locked up at night. And I think if you had your custodial services contracted out, they would be cleaning those restrooms at night and then locking them up. And then everybody, as soon as the parks open up in the morning, it's a clean restroom and ready to use.
Well, that's great. Now, so people don't always get along on boards and things like that. So if you have a disagreement with somebody, like how do you see yourself handling that?
I think a lot of times people talk at each other, not to each other. And so I think building positive relationships is a good way to meet in the middle. My opinions can change if I'm given enough factual information. I don't know everything. But I think that you discover that through conversations with other people. I think a good skill of mine is I am a people person, and having those conversations and meeting people in the middle is important too. If you want some things to go your way, you're going to have to do things somebody else's way too. And together, I think we can accomplish anything, and every problem's got a solution.
Awesome. And I was curious too, because you're remind me what you're doing down in Sac.
So down in Mission Oaks Recreation Park District, I'm the park superintendent there. So same thing that I was doing in Cameron Park and El Dorado Hills. So I oversee all of the park maintenance, the facility maintenance, but I also oversee all the contracts. So we contract a lot of services out too, and we still have the need for maintenance staff. So that's a lot of times people get scared. You contract stuff out, you think you're getting rid of employees, and that's not true. You're repurposing them on more important things that they could be focused on. So part of my duties are also oversee the landscape contract, oversee the custodial contract, the HVAC contract, the IT. We contract out with the sheriff's department and the security as well. And so I oversee all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so you've had a lot of experience with all those things.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's some positive things. Like I said, working with the other districts, I've seen what works for them that we haven't ever used in Cameron Park. And I think I can take some of those positive elements, implement them in Cameron Park, and really see a positive change.
Okay, great. And that kind of leads into this next question of what sets you apart? Like why should people vote for you over some of the other candidates?
I think I'm just a regular person. You know what I mean? I live in Cameron Park. I've lived there for a long time. I don't think any other candidate's going to know the CSD as well as I know the CSD, working there for 18 years.
Yeah.
And I really care. This is something that I didn't want to do, but I felt like I had to do. A lot of people asked me to step up and serve my community, and I'm honored to do so. And I'm a really nice guy, so I think that should win a few votes.
Awesome. Now, if someone wants to get involved in your campaign or learn more about you, where can they go?
So again, not a politician guy. You can go to my personal Facebook, and you can see my whole life, not just my campaign life. So look me up on Facebook at J.R. Hichborn. Email is jrinc@att.net. If anybody's got questions, I'm happy to answer.
Great. Awesome. Anything else you want to add before we close out here?
Just that I really appreciate your time. This is the first time doing something like this, and this is awesome. Just really appreciate the exposure, and it means a lot. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. This has been Liberty and EDC. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next time. Look for more political interviews coming out here, and you can find us on Foothill 7 TV and YouTube and social media.